Hello everyone, my name is Ray and today is December 3rd and I'm going to consider this day 3 of the 30 days of health journey. Now in this particular case I got completely off track and I only maintained staying away from processed foods and meats and heavy meals for a short amount of time. As we know, during this particular year, it'll be next year probably by the time you're seeing this, but during this particular year, 2020, we've had ample opportunity for curbside delivery and basically trying to shortcut some of the processes so that we can save time and basically address whatever it is that we've been addressing throughout time. So for me, that had to do with a lot of things. I've been getting called to help out on projects that, people need help with. At the same time as people are needing help with their projects, I believe Mother Nature needs help with all of its survival, probably through the unity of all of mankind. Now, I'm not a spokesperson for anything or any kind of a large platform audience, as I've been reminded by many of my former peers and counterparts. And so carrying through a message that has to do with conservation and wellness is very difficult. If you work at a certain level, if you're a Bono or something like that, you can talk to and address these huge platforms of people that may or may not actually take to heart what you're saying. You may not even take to heart what you're saying, and you may continue your own process of accepting all of the comforts that come from the resources that we're given, that we're able to be stewards of. And I know this all sounds roundabout and everything, but I really wanted to kick off this postponed segment by showing you something that maybe you haven't seen before, which is a story of success, failure, success again, and what it's like to continue to maintain these expectations that you can even succeed continuously to begin with. For me, those expectations come from knowing how I felt when I was healthier. Right now, I'm 246.6 pounds, which is considerably different from the 203 that I'd made it down to. So you could theorize that I've gained 40 pounds, but realistically, if you think back to my journey, what I did was lose a lot of weight by taking the 7-day vegan challenge and carrying it through to the point where I lost 80 pounds, where I was about 203.3 pounds. And then I decided to try and work out and see how hard is it to build muscle when you're eating mostly plant-based. For the first time in my life, I was able to put on 10 pounds of muscle. And so I weighed about 213, and I maintained that weight for a pretty considerable amount of time. So much so that I know that once you reset your metabolism, it'll stick with you until you take on so many poor quality bits of content that it causes you to backslide and to begin the aging process again. Excuse me. Had a little bit of a hiccup there, so the subconscious does all kinds of unusual things to showcase what it is that we're telling in truth or as a fib. And these are all subjects that I'll cover in different episodes. But for right now, like I say, welcome back. This is day 3 of our 30 days of continuous health improvement. And I would like to welcome you back. If you've been watching my channel, great. That means you've probably subscribed. You may not have. You may not have ever shared any of these videos, but I'm very grateful for any of you who have subscribed and continued to share these topics. These topics are things that we share together. It's not something that I'm putting out there as a lone island. I know that friends and family may not be my primary consumer of content, but that's really who I'm putting it out there for, is friends and family. So if you're paying attention to me and you're watching this, no matter where you're at, consider yourself a friend. And I consider myself extremely lucky to have you as my friend. Thank you so much. So if you haven't subscribed and you're just now getting into this and wondering, what's this mystical, new age, weird guy saying? All I'm saying is that wellness and conservation are tied together, and so is our health and what we can do to maintain that which we are stewards of throughout our entire ecosphere, if that's even a word. So on day 3, I wanted to talk about toxins. Yesterday I talked about toxins, and I was at the park, and really the main reason that I wanted to bring that topic to the forefront is because I was sweating. And it's something I hadn't done in a while. It's been kind of cool here, and there's been not really a whole lot of activity in the yard that I could really get into. I had injured my wrist considerably when I took a fall in Big Bend. There's a previous episode that talks about that, how I split my shorts, and all over retrieving a plastic bottle that was out in the middle of nowhere. And so the recovery process has taken a while, and it got me to the point where I was so frustrated with my recovery that I thought, well, I need to get back to the basics, get back to the basics and really start reinvigorating my own wellness. And so basically toxins was one of the first things that came to mind as I was walking through Friedrich Park, and I began to sweat. I hadn't sweat in a while, and I knew that I was releasing toxins. And then I remembered, I've covered this topic before, and maybe it's because I hadn't really been putting in any effort to where I was physically exerting myself, that not only was I gaining a little bit of weight, but I also was not releasing some of those toxins that were compounding in my system and causing a significant additional delay in terms of my recovery process. So I went to the park, sweated out over just a couple of simple miles, and I felt a lot better. I actually slept extremely well, remembered my dreams, and I'm telling you, I'm still struggling to count sheep. As I go to bed, I'll try to count or to say a mantra or a prayer, and I'll find myself repeating it maybe about 4 times and getting to about 10 or 15 sheep. By that point, my mind is already kind of checked out and decided to think about all the different things that I've got going on in my life. So without any kind of details about every single thing that's going on in my life, let me tell you, it has been challenging, particularly during the end of this past month and going into this month. The holidays have never been my strong suit, if you call it that, because I've always been torn in multiple directions in terms of the holidays. And that just has to do with family circumstances and events and all the things that cause us to think about things on so many deep levels as we approach the holidays. So hopefully you've made it through the holidays unscathed, and maybe with more love and compassion in your heart and gratitude. I know that I have, and I know that I've tried to bring that awareness to other people so that they can do the same thing. There's no need for us to be stumbling and failing all along the way. So we need to be removing the toxins. So I put together a small list of how I believe that we can target that effort, and I'll start with negative thoughts. Toxins begin with the very thought stream that we are typically in tune with. If I look at something and if I look at myself and I hatefully say, God, I look, I'm so fat all the time. If I'm looking at myself and saying that, I'm going to manifest that. My subconscious believes everything I tell it. And so as the days have gone by, yes, there are physical compromises that I've made in terms of not getting out and being healthy and maybe even taking a spill that slowed me down and forced me to think about these things a little bit. But if I'm not thinking about those thoughts negatively, I also think, I'm pretty strong. I'm able to recover from these things. And that's a positive thought stream. Positive thought is one of the most important things when it comes to achieving your goals. So my particular goal is to reduce my weight to about the 220 range. And part of that's going to include recovering some of that muscle that I've lost while I've just been Corona isolated. And I know that you guys understand what I'm talking about. We're probably still going through this same situation right now. Hopefully the world has continued in a way that allows us to at least still embrace one another and not be afraid of the next challenges that are coming in this new year that we're now encountering. Again, like I say, I know you're going to be watching this during 2021, and everyone was talking about 2020. Hindsight is 2020. That's why I made a whole compilation of songs that was called Hindsight. And I made a record that I thought would be entertaining. Hindsight is 2020. When we look back on things, we're going to recognize there are a lot of things that we could have done to shortcut a lot of the effort and processes. Negative thoughts is the number one thing to shortcutting some of these challenges and just thinking of them as games, you know. As a child, we enjoyed doing things that allowed us a level of success. If we were trying to build a sandcastle, we didn't worry so much that the waves would come in and wash the sandcastle away. We built our castle. We built a moat, and we tried to do all these different things. And that's something that I'm saying because I'm able to think about it as a child would. You have to get into your childlike mentality. One of my teachers used to say, move to the right side of your brain. You have to move into that level of creativity to creatively come up with ways to get out of that negative thought rut. You know, some people don't like sharks. Yeah, it's a kind of almost a bias. Sharks take care of things in an ecosystem that maybe you don't understand, like snakes or spiders or rats or scorpions or anything like that. These are all negative. They can incite negative thoughts. I could say that someone's trying to trump someone else. That can incite a negative thought. But only if you're in a mindset that's maybe aligned towards negativity to begin with. And I'm telling you this from experience. I'm not calling you out. I'm telling you, I understand what negative thoughts are. There are words that trigger words that will trigger negative emotion. So your challenge, my game for you, is the next time you hear something, let's say for an example, some people didn't like playing Miss Pac-Man if they were a guy. That's a negative thought. That's a negative thought to a design in a video game system that carries no weight whatsoever into your own space, you know, however you align in terms of your masculinity or femininity. The whole point is it's just a random tidbit of insight that I'm telling you, there are negative thoughts. And when you turn it around and go, man, I wonder how good I could be as Miss Pac-Man if you're a guy, you know, and you just learn something new with the joy, the profound joy of a child, well, now you've turned that game into something, you've turned that frown upside down, is how I'll say that. Next on the agenda is negative energy. Some of the things that we're eating on a regular basis have negative energy. The blueberries that I started with this morning did not have negative energy. That was 100% joy. It was delicious. It was satisfying. It was nourishing. And the energy itself is something that resonates in what I'm putting out there in return. So negative energy is something that we can consume from media subscriptions. If you're watching this and you're thinking I'm giving you some negative energy, I'm really just giving positive encouragement. So again, you gotta look at how you're hearing things. Sometimes if I type things, people misunderstand and misinterpret what I'm typing. They might even judge based on my own past as to whether or not any of what I'm saying is valid. That's like saying, I don't know, some major leader of a world economy said some negative things about one gender or the other and was no good at something just because of that. Now, that might be true, but the two things are unrelated. It's like saying I called a customer contact center and I got someone that had an accent and they didn't understand my problem because they had an accent. That's really unrelated to the issue altogether. So you see, there's a negative energy that you can feed yourself with just by having negative thoughts. So negative energy and negative thoughts are kind of tied together, but negative energy is something that you can subscribe to by the things you consume, no matter how you consume it, whether it be your eyes, your ears, your mouth, you know, however you're consuming this negative energy is something that you can learn to shortcut. You know, if you're watching a lot of news at the end of the day that's not inspiring you, change the channel. It's real simple. Subscribe to something that's happier. So next we're going to move on to poor food choices. I call it poor food choices because the standard American diet, SAD, is basically comprised of poor food choices. And what I mean by that is if we're consuming things that are making us ill, then we're continuously having to subscribe to medications to offset those illnesses. That's poor food choices. That's making us more broke to get that temporary craving satisfaction. And this goes with anything that you seek out for pleasure or for temporary entertainment. There are poor choices that will not reward you in the long run. They will not love you the same way that you loved it. And if you loved that hamburger, or that piece of pizza or whatever for just a few minutes, and it still came out of your pores in oil, and in excess weight and in excess medications to offset those symptoms that come from these problems, that's a poor choice. It's not a great return on your investment when you are shorted your energy that you were previously allowed to demonstrate your stewardship of the land around you, wellness and conservation. The next thing, little to zero participation. If you're actively participating in armchair activism, then you're not really participating. That's little to zero participation to click on something that says, in other words, our vote, for an example, is another armchair activist type level of participation. If we voted for one party or another based on a set of beliefs like conservation and wellness, but never stopped buying the plastic water bottles that basically gave you a more purified version of the water that you could easily take a reusable container to some place and get instead of getting one-time use disposable products, you're not really encouraging your vote in the same direction that you really believe in your heart, and that causes a disconnect. So zero to little participation to me means find a creative solution. If you're wanting to lose weight but you're never doing sit-ups, you're never doing push-ups, you're never doing pull-ups, you're never going for a walk, you're never even taking advantage of these things that we have while we have them, these limbs that we have while we have them, that's poor stewardship of our own self. That's zero to little participation. Our bodies do age and do wither as we do not address using what we have. This is just as much what I'm steward of, if not more so than all the things that are around me. It's all temporary. It's all going to go, at some point. But as a proper steward of myself, I cause less interruption to other people's lives to where they have to stop and try to maintain me as well. If I'm maintaining myself and I'm able to help others, then I'm able to help others to get to these points where they're also able to more fully realize we have the strength to do anything that we want to. We just have to accept in our hearts responsibility. Some people might hear it like as if I'm saying something else. Whatever it takes for you to accept that higher power of whatever it is to accept responsibility means to you, that's how you need to hear it. I'm not here to preach to you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm telling you what I'm doing to get from my 240 whatever to 220 something. So I'm going to lose 20 pounds and I'm going to show it happen. I'm going to show it to you in a way where you're like, yeah, I could almost tell if you lowered the camera, you got a belly there. And I know you weren't that big before. And you'll also see the gray goes out of my beard as I reverse my aging process. This is something anyone can do at any age. I've seen it. And other people have seen it too. It's all over YouTube. You can subscribe to those people who are inspiring you to do the same thing if you want to do that. Or you can subscribe to zero to little participation by clicking on things and saying, I really don't like this person. I really don't like that person. I really don't like the other person. I really don't like Miss Pac-Man. I really don't like people with accents. I really don't. What do you like? These are zero to little participation is all it takes to be negative. Negative thoughts are the easiest route to basically sidetracking every beautiful thing that comes into your life. Every beautiful smile that you've passed by because you just didn't smile yourself. Those are simple things. You just participate more than zero to little. Participate a little bit more. Talk to someone. See if there's a real world outside of that device that you've been looking at for your inspiration. Next, blocked creative energy. There are certain things and people, events and people that will block creative energy. Those blocks are a lot of times your only way through. If you cannot be creative because there are certain things that are sidetracking you, if your office space is a mess and it doesn't allow you to creatively think forward, that's blocked creative energy. Clean the space. If you can't physically clean the space yet because you're not physically able to get to that point, start at step one. Get a good night's sleep after seeing something inspirational. Sleep on it. Think about the solutions. You will come up with creative solutions to the issue. Excuse me, had another hiccup there. There are subconscious things that will show you when you're telling things that are true or lies. And there are different sides that will respond differently. I call it the ego and the spirit. The ego and the spirit respond two different ways. Your creative energy requires your ego and spirit to be in harmony. You can't really be in harmony when you think other people are trying to gaslight you all the time and they're always trying to stifle you. There's no one stifling you except for you. You have every bit of right, just like anyone else, to do anything that you want to do. And you'll have a heck of a lot easier process if you're trying to inspire people to smile. That's all I'm saying. So, next, not sweating it out. We started yesterday talking about toxins as I was giving you the segue between, hey, this was then, that was then, this is now. I really believe and encourage you, especially if you haven't done it recently, to get out and sweat it out somewhere. Go for a walk. Go for a walk that's challenging enough that it causes you to breathe a little bit harder, to get your blood flowing, get your blood pumping. There are a lot of ways that we can sit and be armchair activists without ever recognizing all of the beautiful things that we could be doing, which are also those beautiful things that other people come to appreciate and enjoy. I took pictures for a huge portion of my time as I was growing into an adult. A lot of pictures because I went to a place called Big Bend National Park, my favorite place, tied with Hawaii. Well, I've only been to Hawaii once, but I can tell you, there's a hugely lush place, out in the middle of the ocean. And then there's this Big Bend National Park, which is basically mountains, a river, and a desert all in one area. Just as lush. You just have to walk into the right pockets of ecosystems. But we have bears, bighorn sheep, mountain lions. That's what I want to bring awareness to in terms of conservation. A lot of people don't understand that my whole mission, Mother Nature framed, my whole mission of talking about all of these different things that have to do with our own health are because there are a lot of people up at these levels who we revere, who we think are going to solve these problems, but there's no one who's going to solve any problem who's just talking about it, who's doing zero to little participation. There are a lot of programs out there where people will continue to try and balance the imbalance. They'll eat excessively and try to work it out as much as they can. That's an imbalance. We're still not focused on conservation. We're not even focused on wellness. We're only focused on a vanity type approach in terms of, well, I want to maintain my image and I still want to eat that delicious food, which may be in decline, which may be inaccessible to some people who live in different places, who were born in different places. There's an imbalance. Until we recognize the imbalance and have compassion for one another, we might not look at one another and try to figure out, how do I help you to smile through? How do I help you to survive through? How do I help you to express joy throughout this whole situation that I myself am able to express joy through? Well, the one surefire way to do it is to smile. So find that thing that makes you smile. I've got music. I love music. I've always loved to make rhymes and poems. I've been a very quiet person for a long time. I'm saying a lot of stuff to you right now, things that may resonate with you. I've joked about these guitars being electric, you know. And they could shock me if I grab them both. The current that flows through them is so powerful. The current that flows through these electric guitars is me. I have a lot to learn in terms of how to play and resonate with someone in just the way that'll catch their attention. But I don't have a lot to learn in terms of speaking from the heart. Our fathers may not have taught us some of these things properly in some instances. And I don't mean that like as a knock on the dads. I mean our parents, our forefathers. Generationally, we might have been taught a different way. But today I'm telling you, knock down those barriers. Get those toxins out of your system. Reject them. Reject the toxins. Sweat them out. And think about spelling. This is where the new age kind of hippie-ish stuff that some people might see me as will resonate with the new age hippie-ish people. Toxins. Toxins. Talk sins. Confession. There are things that you don't like about your own self, which might be your biggest attributes. You might have been programmed to think that you're not as worthy as the next person to achieve whatever it is that you want in your life. I don't think that's true. Everyone deserves to achieve whatever they want in their life. The only thing it takes is for that person to take steps towards that goal. That's all it takes. It takes people moving in the direction of success to succeed. If you're moving in the opposite direction, if you want to get healthy and you're not participating and you're only spewing negative thoughts at one another and you can't even support your own friends and family through their own hurdles, you might not have the energy to get through these hurdles yourself. And so you might feel bad enough that you would just, well, if I can't make it, I sure as heck don't want other people to make it. That's also a negative energy. That kind of a presence, that kind of a person will suck the energy right out of you in terms of any accomplishments that you can make, because they will consistently delay your achievements. So, how do you deal with something like that? You have to be able to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else. That's all there is to it. Everything else will happen based on some big giant comical plan that's interwoven in such a way that they cannot avoid that conversation with you when the time comes. The conversations that will ensue will always happen based on someone taking the next obstacle out of the way to make those conversations happen. So I hope that you've enjoyed this segment. It's day 3 of what I'll call, just in this episode, because I really don't know how many episodes it'll be or how I'm going to record the format, but I'll call this the next round of 30 days of continuous health. And again, I know that I myself would call it a backslide in terms of what happened to my health, but really I was just enjoying all of the things that we were able to enjoy in this amazing time that we live in, where I'm at. Not everyone has that opportunity. I understand that. I'm grateful for every opportunity that I've had that other people have not had. And I'm also so grateful for those things that I wish to God, I wish to the universe that other people could also experience that. And in a way, I believe that maybe we all will. Maybe we all are one another. It's possible. Once you recognize me and once I recognize you as a friend, I would want you to succeed just as much as you would want me to succeed. But only if we care enough that we ourselves want to succeed. If we don't have compassion for ourselves, if we look in the mirror with any kind of contempt, if we look at each other, who are also mirrors, with contempt, we might be shorting ourselves. So Peace be with you. I appreciate you subscribing, watching these journeys wherever they may roam. And thanks for listening to my segments. I've got a new tool recently. It's a voice pedal, just like the major musicians use, so that when they sing, they have like a voice that sounds serene, a voice that sounds pleasing. My voice, I was inspired by rock and roll. You might recognize some of the pictures and imagery. You might recognize some of the things from the past segments that I've broadcast in terms of what makes me, what gets my heart going. But in the long run, the main thing that gets my heart going is knowing that all of you are okay and everyone's succeeding and everyone's achieving their desired results. And I'm just trying to help showcase, how do you minimize the effort that goes into it? To minimize the effort, you first have to think about this as a child. Get a good night's sleep, take a good walk in nature, sweat it out, get your space in order, and then you can help other people if you believe that the world needs to be brought to order. Wellness and conservation, it's a big, daunting subject, but it's not so daunting when I break it down to just my own individual contributions and participation in this system. So it's time to check out of the zero to little participation race, and it's time to encourage one another that, hey, everyone's vote really does count. And my vote starts with myself. It's as simple as that. You vote for yourself as well. Know that I'm already voting for you. I'm voting for your success. I encourage you to be the best that you can be. And I look forward to seeing you on day 4 of our 30 days of continuous health journey. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Peace.